And let's go to Plymouth Devonport now and get David Owen's declaration. Everybody's put up great signs. Armada 400 this time from Plymouth in 1988. They've learnt the lesson, the American lesson of getting publicity during the election results.
Devonport constituency.
Here we go.
I hereby give notice that the total number of votes given for each candidate at the election was as follows. Ian Flintoff, 14,166. Tom Frank Ryan Jones, 14,569. David Anthony Llewellyn Owen, 21,039.
So David Owen's result, the leader of the SDP, is marginally down against what he thought in Plymouth Devonport. He's back safely, 4,900. His share of the vote has gone down a bit, the Conservatives up a bit, and Labour up a bit.
Hello and welcome to Not PMQs. That clip was a picture of my dad when he stood for Labour against David Owen in 1987. He didn't win, but he certainly scared David Owen enough that he didn't stand to be an MP again and went to the House of Lords. So it was a bit of a success. And the reason I'm playing that is because obviously my dad had an influence on me in wanting to become part of the Labour Party, and he also showed me that there's a broad church within the Labour Party. He was a friend of Tony Benn's. He also liked Neil Kinnock. He thought that Dennis Healey was a good guy. They all seemed to kind of work together. And I joined the party with that belief that Labour was a broad church. At the weekend, I got a letter of expulsion from the Labour Party, and I'll just go through the whole detail of that just so people can see what actually happened here. So sorry for the umming and ahhing, but I'm feeling a little bit emotional about this show. I don't normally talk about myself. I don't really like talking about myself at all, actually. But anyway, I think it's important that I do share what's happening, because it's happening to quite a few other people as well. So this was the expulsion letter that I received at the weekend. It just says notice of termination of membership of the Labour Party. NEC panel met on 22nd of June, so last Wednesday. And I have been, I breached Chapter 2, Clause 1.5 of the Labour Party rulebook by threatening and harassing employees of the Labour Party. The background to that is a Behind Labour that I did with Ben Timberley, who came onto this show to talk about a regional director of the Labour Party. Now, Ben is here to explain himself. Ben, you got me expelled effectively, but what I'd like to talk about is that there's two pieces of that were in that research on the regional director that prompted the Labour Party to expel me for threatening behaviour. The first one was this one, which you identified that this regional director, Teddy Ryan, had stood for election as a district councillor, and you just pointed out that was not really normal thing for a member of the party staff to do. I don't see how that should be enough to expel someone, to point something out that's in the public domain, suggesting that, well, it's not even suggesting, it's just a fact that he stood for election. Everyone could see that. And the second one that probably did it more than any was the fact that he has a registered company, and it's something to do with mortgages, and he's also the regional director of Labour. you in the slide that you had his correspondence address, which is the business address. However, we were told off because that isn't his business address. It's also his home address, but we didn't know that it was written as his business address. Isn't that right?
Correct, mate. Yeah. First of all, I can only give you the biggest amount of solidarity and support in terms of being expelled. I know what it's like to be blacklisted by the Labour Party. I've been there myself. I was suspended for 5 years and I fought it for the first 3 years and then eventually just gave up. So first of all, solidarity on that point, Crispin. On the charges that they put against you, I mean, they are laughable, absolutely laughable. Both of those slides are literally signposting people to information that is publicly available on the internet. We didn't steal it, we didn't acquire it, we didn't hack it, we didn't say we're going to do anything with it. We literally said, this is here, this is odd, we find this strange. Having Labour Party staff standing as electoral candidates just seems to fly in the face of how the party is supposed to work. I know I was certainly told when I was, involved in CLP activity that staff standing for election was a no-no. And yet it seems to be something that, right wingers can do, as and when they like, whether it's been seats or not.
How do they get selected? Because, they have to go through a selection, and if they're a staff member, then obviously they've got some influence on
they
all
have.
That. It's a bit strange. They
And
don't
yet
need to, do they?
It seems to be the case that regional directors get to tell people that they can or cannot stand. That regional directors seem to be the ones that can put local parties into special measures or do preventative measures to stop certain people from standing. Yet when it comes to them standing themselves, they seem to be able to do it just like that. They're magically self-selected. We have no idea how these people got into those positions. What we also know is in terms of those, the threats they made, both legally and in terms of your expulsion. The points they were making about the slide detailing the regional director standing for election, they actually threatened us with criminal charges. It wasn't just a case of we're going to sue you. It was a case of we're going to, suggest that this is in contravention of criminal law, and it's something that the CPS should take action on. That's tantamount to blackmail, and it's completely wrong.
Well, when it comes down to threatening behaviour, I mean, who was doing the threatening more than anyone else here? I mean, that's the main thing. Is like pointing a finger at when there's so many pointing back at them. We're going to do. You're going to be doing another Behind Labour today, and we're going to continue talking about what's going on behind Labour. They've expelled me now, so I suppose I haven't really got anything to lose. The thing is, what I've noticed about the Labour Party is from the start is they have ways of intimidating people. One is, I want to be a candidate in some way. Well, if you want to be a candidate in some way, you better behave yourself, or you won't be a candidate. So that's one way of intimidating you. Another is to say that you could be suspended, and then another one is to say you could be expelled. But when they've gone through all their threats and they've used them all up, there's nothing left. So I think we just continue to do what we're doing. I am very upset about this because I do feel that lots of people in the Labour Party won't speak to me anymore because they'll feel that they're somehow tarnished by even having any contact with me. But I hope that's not the case. And anyway, this show isn't a Labour Party broadcast. It's a discussion program. Thank you, Ben, and speak to you later on in the show.
My pleasure.
Thank you. Now, what I wanted to do, if you don't mind my indulging myself a bit in this, because I think it's important that I tell my story. As I've just said before, my dad stood as a candidate in 1987. He was a councillor before that. He's been a member since the 60s. He worked in Harold Wilson's election campaign in 1970. I was born in that year. And so I do have the Labour Party as almost in my blood, and it's pretty upsetting to be kicked out in such a pathetic way, really. But I was disenchanted with the Labour Party for several years, mostly during the Blair leadership, because my mum's a Quaker, and I've always been brought up on the kind of pacifism. I wasn't happy about the way the Labour Party was then. However, in 2010, I was aware that Tories were talking up austerity, and I wanted to join to try and stop them getting elected. And I came to my first meeting of the Labour Party in 2010 after the general election, because they didn't manage to contact me until then. And it was in a porter cabin in Brentford School for Girls. There's nothing wrong with Brentford School for Girls. A porter cabin is a bit not particularly great, but one of the people who was in that meeting, the first meeting I went to, is on the call, and I hassled her to come on. She didn't want to come on this show at all, but I bumped into her yesterday, and she's been persuaded. Heather Wetzel, are you there, Heather? You have to unmute yourself.
Like me to unmute. Sorry, not done this before. Yeah, hi, Crispin.
Thank you,
It
Heather.
was in the House of Lords that we bumped into each other. You might drop that in.
Yeah, I was Prem Sicker had a presentation. We went to talk about that.
Yeah.
But when I first met you was in this porter cabin in Brentford School for Girls. We just had the Tories and the Lib Dems join a coalition and agree to make loads of cuts all over the place, and the austerity that we've all heard about and know about now. But there were probably about 15 people in that meeting. Most of those were either officers or councillors. Nothing was really said at all in that meeting about how we could engage more members, more people to come in, and also those who are members to actually turn up to meetings. I mean, there was nothing in that meeting that I could see that could encourage anyone. I mean, is that your feeling of how it was at that time in the Labour Party?
Yeah, I think you're totally right there. I'm absolutely aghast to learn that you've been expelled. I can't understand it. And talking about you threatening people, you'd be the last person I'd have thought would threaten anybody, because you're such an open-minded person and you discuss with everybody. So I'm stunned at that. But yes, the Labour Party, where we were, and I think nationally, there's a sense of frustration amongst a lot of us that things aren't right, and why aren't we doing something about it? I know when we moved, we used to be in the other end of the borough, and then we moved to Cornwall for 5 years, moved back to Brentford, and went to the meetings there. And there was a lack of discussion, there was a lack of enthusiasm. And you were a breath of fresh air, I remember coming in, and you had all these ideas and asking questions and saying, why are we all sitting on our bums not doing anything? So I think you stirred us up a lot, and you reinvigorated me and Dave Wetzel, my husband, and it was great having you. So you helped to change things, I think, and attitudes. So certainly locally you did, and then went on nationally.
But I think that's a kind of met loads of people elsewhere in the Labour Party, other parts of the country, who've said the same thing. They've gone into meetings, they've been full of excitement about how we can change things, want to mobilise people, let's fight this, what's going on. And then they get in a meeting, they hear all this jargon, and then they hear people I've been around a long time, it won't work, it never worked, you can't do anything, we're all powerless, the Tories are going to make these cuts, there's nothing we can do. That seemed to be the spirit of most of the people in the meeting, and there was no attempt to build a bigger party. I mean, I went to a thing with Hilary Benn was speaking in Hounslow Town Hall a few weeks after the first meeting, and I asked him, why haven't we got more members in the party? We've only got 150,000, and he said, that's quite good. He said, we had 10,000 more than before the election. And he was like saying that 150,000 people in the Labour Party was enough. And I just couldn't understand this kind of complacency. So so that was when this is kind of like why I started up Stand Up for Labour, because I thought if you had comedy and music and politics at the same time, people locally would probably be more likely to come to an event than if it was just a dinner with some guy saying the same story that he'd always said, and the tickets were quite cheap. And then when I tried to get that through in the local party, people saying, "Oh no, it won't work. It'll never work. No one will turn up. It'll be a disaster. How much are you charging?" and all this kind of thing. Everyone suddenly became an expert on comedy, and I remember you and Dave. You actually said, "Well, we'll come and we'll do the door for you," and nobody else helped me at all. I had to do it all on my own to get the thing off the ground, and I'll never forget how much you helped me at the beginning, and I was lost without you, in fact, because there's no way I could have done it.
I think you flatter us there, Crispin, but you did. It was something new and something fresh. And comedy is a matter of taste, isn't it? And I've never been to stand-up comedy shows, and so I was a bit wary of going. But I thought, get in there, something different, change from going to meetings, just talking seriously about politics. It was great to go along, to have these comedians and have a bit of entertainment as well as talking about politics, but in a different manner. And it was great. It was a great success, but it was purely down to you. And I think you enthused a lot of people. I think part of the problem of the Labour Party when you joined, when I was in my 20s and 30s, it was like a pyramid. Most of the membership was young. And through the years, we've run out of steam, had our hopes raised and dashed people like Kinnock, who are obsessed with militant in the same way that Keir Starmer's obsessing about anyone that dares to disagree with him in any way, shape or form, or anyone he doesn't like. I can't quite understand him. Is he a MI5 plant, I think, to destroy the party? But so I think what you did was start to encourage younger people into the party, people who got energy and fresh ideas, and that was sadly lacking. And I think what you did was similar to what Jeremy Corbyn did, was talk about policies that we needed and enthuse younger people. And I mean, that whole movement under him was a bit, a bigger version of what you did, was to enthuse people to come along, to come to meetings, to see there's more than just sitting in boring meetings, that we can do things, go out there and have discussions with people on the doorstep and elsewhere, and bring people into the party. Membership is important. Who's going to knock on the doors if it isn't the membership? And I think Keir Starmer and people forget about that.
Well, look, I've got a clip. I'm going to play it. It's a few minutes about Stand Up for Labour. It sort of remind people what it was all about. I'm going to play that now. Okay. Here we go.
The Stand Up for Labour events that have been organised all around the country are not just hilarious in terms of the stand-up comedy, but also they bring Labour Party members together. We have a real political discussion, and also we motivate people. It's part of our mobilising for the Labour Party, and alongside that we raise funds as well. So we need those funds desperately in the run-up for this general election, and it can come at any stage.
Comedians in particular have got a lot of really sensible things to say about the world, and it's just nice to hear those things kind of said in a slightly different way.
And I loved it when Jeremy sat down on that train by toilets for public transport. So I'm a passenger, I don't drive a Mervyn, I'm correct. And I'm going to finish off, because it was my jig, with a stage dive to Iggy Pop's I Am a Passenger.
The world has never looked kindly on the disabled. For example, during the Middle Ages, people thought that we were evil spirits and tried to burn us. Many Christians used to think that we had sinned in a previous life And, even today, some people would rather we were dead. But that's enough about the Tory government.
Good evening, everybody. My name is indeed Arthur Smith, unless there's anybody here from Streatham Tax Office, in which case I'm Daphne Fairfax.
Bless Jeremy, every day he comes out of the house and there's Laura Koonsberg and Sky News just shouting at him. And I mean, you know, sometimes I come out the house and there's a massive dog turd on the pavement, but at least it doesn't follow me down the street and it doesn't press itself against the windows of the car as I try and drive away. You know?
Jeremy Hunt says using Google for self-diagnosis is good for you, good for the NHS, good for Google, and what's good for Google is good for all of us.
It was a lovely mixture, variety, comedy, serious messages, and just hugely inspirational.
I think Stand Up for Labour is a big step towards unifying Labour a little bit.
I'd like one person who supported Owen Smith to come onto the stage, and one person who supported Jeremy Corbyn to come onto the stage. Good. Up in the air. Look. Put your hand up in the air. Right. Take. That's it. That's it. And you can all sing along if you like with this one, if you know the words. Right, are you ready?
People say people today aren't interested in politics. Well, you should have been here tonight. People were not only interested in politics, but people were being political. They were part of politics. It was a great, exciting night. And all I can say to you is get in early next time because it's sold out tonight. I thank you.
Hello?
Good evening, Warburg. Have those conversations with everybody. They won't hear it in the Mail, they won't hear it in the Sun, they won't hear it in the Telegraph. They'll hear it by our own voices, through our own people, and a wonderful social media campaign. Listen, folks, this is our chance. Go for it. Go for it. Go for it so that we win this election. Thank you very much.
And thank you, Crispin, for putting on these amazing events all over the country. All the best.
Well, there you go. We've got some of the comedians from Stand Up for Labour have agreed to come on for a finale here. There's Suzy. Suzy Bennett's here. How are you doing, Suzy?
Oh, I'm all right. I'm sorry, I'm in the car with Big Willie.
Oh, great.
Big Willie the legend. Oh, we're on our way to the Lido because, of course, what else would I be doing?
And Don Biswas is there, but his camera looks a bit funny. Don, are you taking drugs?
Yeah, I'm trying to work it out. I don't know where. Let me see.
And Patrick Monahan's here as well. Patrick, how are you doing?
Hi, good evening. I'm in the boot of the car of Suzy and Big Willie's car. I'm just in the boot. They're just trapped me in the boot. Let me out, guys. I'm trying to get to the Lido. Crispin, Suzy, Dodd, everyone at Stand Up for Labour, so lovely to see everyone. I love it. I got so emotional. I was watching that clip when you were showing all the Stand Up for Labour. How young does everyone look? How young? Do you remember? It was brilliant.
You still look young. You still look young. Suzy looks better than ever. It's since you've not been on the show, you've been doing well, haven't you? All of you. Don's on the radio. Patrick's all over the place as usual.
I've been mostly touring around Plymouth, showing people the sights and all the pasty shops of Plymouth. This and that. Me and Big Willie are having our second anniversary. Do you remember we met in lockdown? Didn't we?
Oh, brilliant.
And you were all there to see the beginnings of our pasty relationship, and we're going to have our second anniversary.
And what are your memories? What do you think about? What do you think about Stand Up for Labour?
Yeah, guys. Oh, it was so nice.
Well, Crispin, I want to say the reason why I've hid myself is because I don't want Keir Starmer and the Labour Party to know I'm in this meeting. So that's the thing. So I want to keep it hush hush. But thanks for all the opportunities you gave us. It's been absolutely brilliant. And people need to learn that the reason why Corbynistas are still fighting is because they don't know how horrible and how nasty the Labour Party are. We need to get the Ford report out. We need to see what they're doing. And a lot of the people who are getting expelled, they're even left-wing Jewish people. So we need to get this out, the message out, how nasty the Labour Party can be.
Is that what you're going to do in your act for the next few years?
Yeah, definitely. I'm still a socialist. I'm going to get the truth out there. We need to come together and get the truth out there.
Can I say, Don, you were fantastic in Brighton at that gig, the Comedia you did there, and Patrick's done a couple down there as well. Patrick, I remember one of my favourite gigs that you did was in Bethnal Green at the Working Men's Club, where you came on last, and you asked me to play the intro music for you for about 3 minutes, which time you went round the whole club, hugging everyone in the club, and you sat on this guy's lap at the front.
Yeah.
And by the time you got on the stage, everyone loved you. You didn't. It was the best way to win over a crowd, to hug everyone before you even get on.
But Crispin, that's how COVID started.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's my fault. Look at that. No, I tell you what, that is literally the quickest I've ever been on stage. I love it. I think, look, you've got to do that. And I think the great thing is when you do turn up though to your Stand Up for Labour gigs, everyone's in such a good mood anyway. I mean, where else could you do that? Could you imagine anywhere else? Like Don and Suzy will tell you. Can you imagine turning up to a gig anywhere else where they put music on and you just dance around? If you're not on stage within 3 minutes, they'll throw you out the window. Whereas at least with Stand Up for Labour, everyone's like, come on, give us a hug. Come on, pass it around. Yeah. We saw that with Barbara Rice, the way they just crowd surfed her. It was brilliant.
And Suzy as well. You've been amazing. The Plymouth gig you did was fantastic. When Norman was there as well, and that was a good laugh. As well as the one in Weston-super-Mare. Did you like that one, Suzy?
Oh, Norman. Yeah, I'm just coming up to Plymouth Hoe now, and I'm losing my signal slightly. Hang on. Where's turn the camera and show you my wonderful view. Hang on, there. Hey, Plymouth Hoe. Hey, beautiful. Wow. You guys got me through lockdown. I remember at the beginning, I was doing all sorts of things, putting costumes on and going out in the garden. And then by the end of it, I couldn't even be bothered to put lipstick on because I was just like, oh. I made some really, really lovely friends through Stand Up for Labour as well, and we've kept in touch. And I need to be in touch more of it. It's been a bit of a year. But I'm going to go for a nice cold swim now. I'm wearing my T-shirt for Dame Deborah today, Rebellious Hope. And so I might have to go in a minute because I've got to go in the pool.
Well, look, before you go, Suzy, we've got Ian Hodson on. Remember you met
Ian Hodson with how's his hair doing?
It's all right. It's all right. I've had it cut.
Have you got your comb?
Yeah. I've got it cut. Yeah, I've had it cut though. But it cut. Obviously, I'm glad to see you're going to be celebrating with a chocolate pasty later.
Chocolate pasty. You know what? That is your legacy because I say that as a pan au chocolat and I still get a laugh. So thanks for that, Ian. Oh, lovely, well cut. That's what I remember Norman Lovett saying that about you. He said he said I said to myself, that's freshly combed. That's my favourite Norman Lovett comment.
Well, thank you, Suzy, for coming on.
Oh, it's lovely to see you guys.
Have a good time with
Big Willie down at
the Hoe.
Big Willie.
Good to see you, Big Willie.
Look at him, look. You take care. It's lovely to see you. I hope to see you and give you a hug in real life, Patrick, soon.
Yeah, definitely. Crispin, when are we all doing a live one together? You, Susan, Don.
It'd be called something else though. It won't be it'd be called Stand Up for something. Not
Crispin's Freedom Party. Let's do Crispin's Freedom Fighters. Yeah. Come on. Let's vote for that.
Thank you, Suzy. I'm just going to Oh no, sorry, Suzy. I've pressed the wrong.
That's all right.
Ignore my.
I'm still here.
Bit Butterfield. Is it Butterfield? No. Thank you, Don. You've left me in a haze there.
No, I know. Yeah.
See you later.
See you later.
And Patrick, it's always good to see you.
Yeah.
Hope we can do another gig sometime or something else.
Yeah, definitely. Why don't you just do some independent ones?
All right. Well, all right. I'll try. I'll see what you think. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Crispin. Take care. Take care. Lovely to see everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.
Now, Ian, you were a big support to Stand Up for Labour through the Bakers Union, and now the Bakers Union's disaffiliated from Labour. God, it's a bit of a different state we're in now, isn't it?
And it just, but listen, Crispin, life on the outside is much better than life on the inside of that lot. Anyway, let me tell you. I mean, you know, the ability to be able to talk to people and not have them stab you in the back is an amazing place to be. To talk about politics without being smeared or risk being smeared because you have a political point of view which is no longer acceptable within the Labour Party, because that's where the Labour Party is, isn't it? If you have a different view to the cult around Starmer, then you're smeared. You know, they lie about you. They try and bully you. You know, and you know, they're a party that was supposed to be supporting working class people, but yet last week, what were they doing? They wanted to threaten discipline against anybody that went and stood on picket lines with working people that are actually doing something about the cost of living crisis, which they keep talking about as being a real problem for people. But yet when the people stand up, the Labour Party goes missing. This isn't a Labour Party that we belong in anyway, Crispin. And I think you should wear it with a badge of honour, mate. And as for those people who will or won't talk to you, if they won't talk to you, they were never people that you needed to be interested in anyway. Because what you did for the Labour Party, nobody will ever replace. You made thousands and thousands of pounds that enabled the Labour Party to stand in constituencies, to run candidates, to have a chance at winning a general election. And it was the staff of the Labour Party in many areas, unfortunately, that stood in our way from delivering a Labour government based on social democratic policies, and you should be proud of that. And they don't deserve to have you in that party, Crispin. You want to stand proud, mate, because you've been absolutely incredible in the work that you have done. And I mean, as for going forward, you've got so much support out there, and you can see today. I mean, this is a work day, this is a school day, you know, but so many people have still come on here to support you, to show solidarity. You could do anything you wanted, Crispin, would stand up to Labour, turn it to stand up to socialism, turn it to stand up for trade unionism, working people, to fight the crisis. There's so many different things that you could do, that you would get investment to build the movement that we all need. I know that wasn't supposed to be a speech. You were going to ask me questions, weren't you?
No, no. It's good to hear from you. It's good to hear you. I respect all that you've done as well, and you were very early to call out Starmer with the Bakers Union were very early too, and the whole idea of expelling you because you supported a group that that they prohibited or whatever they prescribed. It's just it's ridiculous. Thank you very much for coming on during the work hour. Thank you, Ian. Now I'm going to. I wanted to kind of. I don't know why I need to do this, but I felt like I want to explain why I became more political and not just about comedy, because I sort of changed. Something happened to me doing this show during the COVID pandemic, meeting people from all over the country, talking about their experiences, opened my eyes to what's happening in the Labour Party, and I wanted to play one particular woman's speech. Well, what she said, it wasn't a speech, it was off the top of her head, but what she said meant so much to me that it changed my whole perspective and made me want to fight for justice for people in the party. I'm going to play that now.
In 2018, my husband died very suddenly, and it was a terrible blow to me. We were very close. And then just after that, I got breast cancer. And just after that, I heard from the Labour Party to say that that I had to advise, to warn me about my behaviour, because because of that I was upsetting people because of the things I wrote on Facebook and on Twitter. And then there was silence until 2 years later when they sent me a notice of investigation pointing out all the anti-Semitic comments I'd made. Every single thing was about Israel. And the notice, they went on. I couldn't talk to anyone. It was a major shock. Both times I felt a body blow. It was a body blow. How dare they, these people who knew nothing and experienced nothing about being Jewish, knew nothing. They thought they knew everything. And basically they were taking, there is a division in the Jewish community between those who have commitment to Israel and won't hear anything, and those who believe that what Israel is doing is wrong, and that we have a responsibility because we are Jewish, because of what has happened and our experiences, to stand up for what is right.
Well, I'm joined by Dinah Neslen. Thank you very much for coming on, Dinah. It did mean so much when I heard your story, because you're such a committed anti-racist. To be accused of being racist just seems so unjust. And as a consequence of that, I just wouldn't shut up about the injustice of lots of people who have faced this accusation. And you are an inspiration to me more than any Labour MP.
Thank you, Crispin. But I have to say, you've been an inspiration to me. At the time when you first spoke to me, it was after this huge anti-Semitic campaign against Jeremy Corbyn, against many good socialists. And we Jews were being attacked for anti-Semitism by non-Jews who knew nothing about it and who didn't care about what was happening in our own lives. And the media was silent. The media had nothing to say. And then you came along, Crispin. You came along and gave me and so many like me a platform to express our own views, to show that what was happening was something terrible. It was happening to me, but I was perhaps the first. There were so many people, and it became like a snowball. It became worse and worse. More and more people were being caught up in that net. And Crispin, I'm glad that I was an inspiration. I'm glad that I managed to show you the pain that was being caused both to me and to other people. It's not just to me. I was a symptom of what was happening, perhaps an extraordinary symptom because of what was happening in my life, what was happening in my immediate environment. But I wasn't the only one. So many people were. And if I could preceded you, Crispin, you were the person who first opened that window, allowed the fresh air to come in, allowed so many people to see what was happening when the media and the Labour Party wanted to keep it under wraps, wanted to silence us. And silencing is something that I'm very used to, because if you're a Jew like me, who support the oppressed and not the oppressors, who support Palestinian rights, in our community, you are silenced. We learn to live with that silence because people don't want to open can of worms which will expose what is really going on in Israel and what is happening and what the Israelis are really doing. And it's worse if Jews do it. So the Labour Party also wants you to be silenced about it and tries to keep you silent and uses the smear of anti-Semitism to silence all of us against what's happening. And you gave us a voice. And for that, Crispin, it is your own, it is something that you can always be proud of. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because by opening this window, many other people had felt strong enough to come forward and to mention and to open up their stories and to make their stories real, because once it's heard publicly, it becomes a real story. So thank you so much for everything you've done on all our behalves. And I mean, I want to say, Crispin, you have done so much more for the Labour Party. You made the Labour Party something special, and you did. The way they've treated you is a sign. You should not take it as a sign of you. It is a sign of where they are and how bad they are at the moment.
Well, thank you very much, Diana. It's very kind of you to say all those things, and I do think you're an inspiration more than any MP.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Maybe Corbyn's not got the whip anyway. So.
Yeah.
So thank you, Diana. Sorry, but now I'm going to. I want to play one more video that I haven't lined up properly yet, so you have to bear with me for a sec. Silly me. The video that I wanted to play is from. I can't seem to do what I want to do. The video that I want to play is from around the conference time, because I went to conference this year, in the last year, and I met a few people I hadn't seen before that I've been on the Zooms with. You know, I hadn't been to conference the whole time I'd been a member, and then I went this year, and it was pretty unpleasant being a delegate in that conference. And I wanted to play one video of someone who was also at the conference, and this moved me a lot, and it told me that I wasn't alone, certainly not alone in the way I felt about how things were going.
But the worst moment for me was Sunday afternoon, and we were introduced to the NEC rule changes, and then Ruth Smith came on, and what she basically said to conference hall was, you cannot call yourselves anti-racists if you vote against this rule change, the EHRC rule change. And we sat there in stunned silence. I'm crying again now, because to be told that is the most appalling thing, because you can see that that rule change has nothing to do with dealing with anti-Semitism or racism. It's all to do with concentrating the power of the entire disciplinary procedure in the hands of one undemocratically elected person. But we had this diatribe from Ruth Smith and then Margaret Hodge, and we sat there and barely any delegates dared to speak against it. I mean, I wanted to, but as I said, because I'd spoken the day before and the next day I was due to propose an emergency motion, I didn't dare, because they've been saying you can only speak once. And I thought, what's going to happen if I go up? You know, am I going to be, I don't know, am I going to have some kind of, you just didn't know, because everything just made you feel terrified. So I didn't speak. I was willing somebody else to speak. I was willing somebody to get up and say, just to call out the absolute lies of it. And they didn't. And I think, you know, I sat with a group of delegates from various Yorkshire and Humber CLPs, and we sat there shocked, in tears, you know, to have somebody utter those words, you know, to tell you cannot be an anti-racist and vote against something, and you know you're being gaslighted and manipulated in the most cynical, despicable way, was probably my lowest moment in the party, I think. And I just want the word to get out. I mean, we've got that rule change now, and it's an appalling one. It will do nothing to protect people, and it will do everything to allow more witch hunting, and we're powerless, really. I don't know how we come back from it, but I just want people to understand the implications and the awful way that we were abused, really. Sorry, that made me very emotional.
Marisa, are you going to cry again?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, it makes me so upset. Like, just thinking about how it felt that day. It was just awful, and I know you felt it too. And it was the beginning of the end for me, really, because I knew I'd seen for a year what was going on in the party, but I did think we had one last chance at conference. You know, I just thought, come on, we've got to go. We've got to give everything. We'd had the David Evans vote the day before, and that was gerrymandered, and you know, that was all awful. And I think the writing was on the wall from that day, really, even though it felt like a predominantly left-wing delegation.
It felt very sinister, didn't it? The whole,
we had no, like, you know, everything that happened that week that was good and that was left-wing and that was in keeping with, you know, the previous two manifestos was just totally trashed. You know, the motions that we passed, the constitutional amendment that we passed, which has obviously just been ignored in every snap election since. And, you know, it was just, I went still with some hope, and I left with absolutely none, because I just thought they have got control of every part of the party, and it doesn't matter what we do using, you know, the democratic powers that are rightfully ours. They will, you know, they will manipulate them, and they you know, we just didn't have that democratic power anymore as members. It was just so obvious every single day, from that first David Evans vote to every day beyond. And,
what I feel, especially from that conference, is this: they often peddle this one during elections about, we don't have a lot of money in the Labour Party, we've just got our members, we're out there knocking on doors, this kind of thing about the membership being so central to Labour. And Starmer still does that. He still makes out Labour's not a corporate brand, but it so clearly is now. Doesn't it feel like that to you?
Totally and utterly. I mean, I just, yeah, I don't think they want members at all. You know, the membership has always been more left-wing than the PLP and Labour groups, and, you know, they don't want that. We're a ball, and, you know, we're of no use to them at all. And
I'm going to bring on Pamela Fitzpatrick as well. Do you mind hanging around a bit, Marisa? Pamela's.
Can I just quickly say sorry, because I haven't had a chance. Sorry.
Go on.
I just wanted to quickly echo what everyone else has said, Crispin. You are an absolute hero, and you are so much better than the Labour Party. And the Labour Party is so foolish and so short-sighted to be getting rid of people like you, who are the very essence of everything it should stand for. And I totally agree with what Ian said and others. You know, you've got to take your platform, which is so great and has given so many of us a voice, and just do something brilliant with it, and, you know, literally sod the Labour Party that it's gone, it's over, and we've all got so much to give. And, you know, thanks to you, really, because otherwise we'd all just be lost and floundering, I think. And
well, thank you. You like I say, you inspired me when you spoke so openly that time, and it did make me feel less alone in my own horrible feeling that was the worst afternoon of my life, in a way. So sinister.
Yeah.
Pamela, how are you?
Yeah, okay-ish, as you can be these days. But
I mean, your experience of the Labour Party is unbelievable. I mean,
yeah, it is. And well, first of all, I would just want to say it is appalling that you've been expelled, Crispin. And I think I said on Twitter that I met somebody at the TUC march who was talking to me and just said the Labour Party is completely upside down. And that kind of describes it really well. Anybody who's good is kicked out and despised and smeared, and anybody that's bad is promoted and hailed as some wonderful hero. And it's so sad. And I absolutely get what Ian is saying, that there's life outside. But for people who've devoted a huge amount of their time, energy, money, to the Labour Party, it's really hard to have that kick in the teeth, isn't it? I'm sure you feel that, Crispin, because of all that you've done. It's quite unbelievable that they have expelled somebody who's raised so much money for the Labour Party. But likewise, I've met so many people and spoken to so many people. They've messaged me to say that your show literally was a lifeline during the pandemic. People who live on their own, people who felt that they'd been smeared by the Labour Party, feeling ashamed, embarrassed, you know, losing their friends. So it's terrible. But yes, I've been through it as well, and it's quite difficult to deal with, really. It's actually made me want to leave Harrow, because when I bump into people who've been involved in this, I just don't want to see them anymore. You know, I just feel completely disgusted by them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, it's terrible. It's terrible. I mean, you know, the thing about it is we were all brought up, in a sense, to think the Labour Party was the place for, it was like a home where we could be discussing ways we could help other people and be of use. And now it's a place where you can't do that unless you're a mate of someone.
Yeah, the only thing I'll say, Crispin, I've been really inspired by the trade unions recently. I've been a trade unionist since I was 19, on the first picket line. I can't remember, it was about 2021, but young. And it's been really inspiring seeing Mick Lynch, for example, but Sharon Graham. And I noticed that David Lammy has just put up an apology to Unite members for what he said about the strikers on whatever he was on at the weekend. Now, I'm pretty sure that's not down to Starmer. I'm pretty sure it's down to Sharon Graham because of what she has said. And because Lammy, I mean, he must be so foolish, but he's a Unite-backed MP. So why would you attack your own members? It's so unbelievable. And what's been highlighted to me in recent years is just what poor quality most of our MPs are. I mean, they really are. When you hear them speak, and by contrast, you see people like Mick Lynch, you know, giving political education in such a simple way about the transfer of wealth, for example, from the poor to the rich. I mean, just brilliant. So I do think we have to keep fighting. I don't know what's going to happen in the Labour Party. I'm appealing my expulsion, and I hope you do as well, Crispin, just to not let them off the hook, really. You have to do that. And I hope that you will continue your shows, stand-up shows, but I think it should be stand up for justice, because that's what you've been doing. You've been holding people to account. You've been giving people a voice that wouldn't have a voice otherwise. And I think that's what it should be about. And you can bring the trade unions on board and socialists, etc. But we can't let these injustices just go unrecognised, really. We have to do something about it.
Yeah. Well, thank you, and thank you, Marisa, for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
I wasn't sure if you'd make it, but good to see you. Thank you, Pamela. Now, John Dunn's put his hand up, so I'm not going to argue with John Dunn because he's quite a tough guy. John, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to say, Crispin, well, obviously solidarity, but to me, you've shown that politics can be something interesting, and it's not just boring councillors talking about like that. And it's been an honour to be part of your Sunday shows. And we had a saying in Pitt about people who can't hack it, and we call them nouters. You know, and the shiny suited, pointy shoe people who've come for you, that's what they are, nouters. You're worth 1 million of them. And just to briefly follow on from what Ian Hodson said, the movement out there needs people like you. Just imagine what your show can do for strike funds, for campaigns, for trade union recruitment. And yeah, you know, all power to your elbow, Crispin. Look upon it as a liberation. You no longer have to be shackled by these bastards. And I'm to show my solidarity, mate, I'm going to go out and look for one of them shiny jackets.
I was thinking of selling it. Should I get rid of it because it's red? I was thinking it's Labour colour.
No, red. No.
They shouldn't own red, though, should they? They shouldn't let Labour own the colour red. It's a bit.
No, it's our colour. You know, the people's flag is deepest red. So keep that, mate.
I'll keep the red jacket then.
And get on the road with that truck and let's, you know. Thank you, mate.
Oh, thank you, John.